This is the part where I tell you I built that platform with a little insurance policy. A failsafe, running silently in the cloud stack, feeding real-time performance metrics directly to the one person Mason couldn't charm or deceive: Karen Bouchard. You might recognize her as the venture capitalist who once iced out half of Silicon Valley with a single press release. She calls me Elise. Mason. He doesn't get called at all. Now, before I drag you into the bonfire that was my corporate life, do me one favor. If you're one of the 97% watching without subscribing, click that button. A like helps us upgrade from stale crackers to real sushi this week. Thanks. Back to the inferno. Officially, I was senior systems architect at a cross-border logistics startup in Denver. You've probably never heard of it unless your IKEA couch got stuck in customs. Unofficially, I was the woman duct taping a 90s-era framework to a $1 ADM optimization overhaul, while the C-suite played ego roulette over latte-fueled strategy decks. I was the ghost in the back end, the one who built Volt vehicle optimization and load tracking. It sounds sleek. It wasn't. It was a stitched-together beast of route analytics, driver shift prediction, fuel efficiency modeling, and a custom dashboard I coded from sheer pettiness after Mason mocked my proposal as too technical for investors. The system worked. Cut idle times by 61%, trimmed costs, predicted transit delays within a 3-minute margin. And every week I filed crystal-clear reports. Mason never read them. He'd skim-nod at a pie chart, chuckle at a color-coded heat map, then pivot into a story about his yacht consultant. Meanwhile, I was wrangling warehouse chaos, diffusing driver strikes, and rewriting APIs at midnight. Every town hall, Mason strutted like a TED Talk dropout, presenting my work as visionary planning. I sat in the back, sipping burnt coffee, pretending not to cringe as he clicked through the deck I sent 12 hours prior. Still, I stayed quiet. I played along, thinking that if I just delivered brilliance, maybe I'd finally get credit. Or a raise. Silly me. What Mason didn't know, and what only I and a very specific clause in a legal memo knew, was that Volt had a silent owner. A secure read-only feed, nicknamed Protocol Echo, was hardwired deep into Volt's core. It couldn't be paused, couldn't be altered. And unless you had credentials baked into a very specific line of encrypted access control, you couldn't even see it. Credentials I'd handed to Karen Bouchard personally. 6 months earlier during a meeting Mason forgot to attend. Karen didn't need buzzwords, didn't want preambles. She wanted truth. And Volt gave her that in 4K resolution. No spin, no filters. Just raw logistics data that practically sang in her investor dashboard. Real-time gains, fuel usage slashed. Error margins down to decimal points. And every time Mason strutted through an investor call or waved my graphs around like his own trophies, I smiled tighter. Because I knew Karen was watching. Watching him. Watching me. What I didn't know was how fast she'd light the match when he struck the last spark. The metrics were mind-bending. Even the office printer groaned under their weight. 47% drop in misroutes, 58% increase in load efficiency, labor costs, trimmed without a single layoff. One East Coast depot reported same-day clearance across every dock. That's borderline sci-fi. I clutched the latest rollout report like it might sprout wings and sing. I had taken a Frankenstein framework, retrofitted it with modern muscle, and brought it roaring back to life. Mason's response? Let's slow walk the release. Let the market digest. Digest what, Mason? We weren't the Fed. I blinked twice in conference room D, still in my Navy jacket, maybe today they'll remember my name Blazer. I'd brewed my own espresso just to feel in control. But there was no board in that room. Mason strolled in 15 minutes late, caramel latte in hand, and declared he'd be framing the narrative for stakeholders himself. His words? They need to hear it from a vision lens, Elise, not a back-end build. Translation. Sit down, honey. Daddy's got the mic. I didn't push back. Just smiled. But my teeth were clenched so tight I could have turned diamonds to dust. That weekend, the whispers started. First from Tara in payroll, who bumped into me at the second-floor vending machine. Elise, she said, eyes wide. You okay? I heard something weird in the exec lounge. Tara asked if I was okay. Said she'd heard Mason swooped in last minute to take over the Volt system and cleaned it up fast. Cleaned it up, like I'd left behind a garage full of rusted bolts and half-coated junk. Later that day, Mike from distribution pinged me on Slack. Nice pivot on Volt. Wild how Mason flipped it around so quick, huh? I reread that message 3 times, then stared at the blinking cursor like it had grown fangs. This wasn't just a mix-up. It was erasure. Mason wasn't delaying the rollout. He was rewriting history, and I was being edited out. I sat alone that night, lights low, staring at our laminated distribution map. No tears, no outbursts. Just silence, deep and thick, like sitting in your own memorial service and realizing no one brought flowers. Then Natalie, my assistant, peeked in. Phone held like it might bite. "Hey, Elise." This probably means nothing, but the investor dashboard pinged at 2:13 a.m. Someone named Karen Bouchard logged in. That normal? I didn't move at first. Then I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "That's normal." Because while Mason was off crafting Instagram captions from a Napa winery, Karen was dissecting the latest Volt metrics with her usual insomnia-fueled sharpness. She didn't need a keynote. She didn't need my voice. She had direct access to the numbers, to the timeline, to the truth. That night, Volt hit a new performance record. My little Frankenstein system was outperforming projections by double digits. And my failsafe. It didn't care who smiled on stage. It just reported, clean, cold, undeniable. I wish I could say I stormed in the next morning with a flash drive and a vengeance monologue. I didn't. I clocked in at 7:58 a.m., same as always. My badge still worked. My coffee was still terrible, and my heart still heavy. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't waiting for applause anymore. The spotlight was never mine to begin with, but the work that was mine. And so was whatever came next. The hallway to floor 14 smelled like printer toner and polished betrayal. My outlook was empty, but I knew exactly what was happening up there. Final strategy briefing with the board. The board meeting I'd spent 3 months prepping for slide decks, predictive dashboards, savings breakdowns by decimal point wasn't mine anymore. The elevator doors slid open, and Mason strolled out smoothing his blazer like he'd just dropped a TED Talk for gods and unicorn investors. He didn't even flinch when he saw me. "Hey, Elise," he said casually, like I was a barista who once misspelled his name on a cup. Then he walked past. No pause. No explanation. His citrusy cologne trailed behind like a eulogy for the career I'd built from scratch. I stood frozen a moment too long, heart tapping like a system error. This wasn't just a snub. It was sanitization, a silent wipe. I was being version controlled out of my own code. Back at my desk, the HR email landed. Subject, urgent check-in. Please, confirm. I laughed, quietly. The kind of tired laugh you exhale when the knife lands right where you always knew it would. The walk to HR felt slow, heavy. I passed the logistics bullpen. My team didn't look up, not from cruelty, just from protocol. That's how quiet terminations work. Clean, clinical, bloodless. Monica from HR was waiting. She didn't meet my eyes, just motioned to the chair with that tight, faux sympathetic smile. Elise, she began, already glistening with nerves. After a careful evaluation of departmental needs and strategic realignment, your role has been deemed redundant. Redundant! I tilted my head like a confused golden retriever. Redundant, I echoed. Despite the Volt system, currently generating $20 million in projected savings. She blinked like I'd spoken Morse code. It's not performance-based, she said quickly. Leadership believes the company's direction has shifted away from the original scope of the project. Reallocated resources, she added as if I were a broken swivel chair. Then he walked in. Of course he did. Mason, half a protein bar in hand, grinning like oxygen belonged to him. He gave Monica a nod like she was his accomplice, then turned to me. You built a lemon, Elise, he said. No shame in it. We're pivoting. My throat burned, but I smiled, because I knew something he didn't. Karen had already logged in. There it was. No warning, no curtain pull, just a full-body hit to the chest delivered under fluorescent lighting hands clenched in my lap. Every instinct in me howled to lunge across the table, tear the smug right off Mason's overpriced blazer. But I didn't flinch. Didn't speak. Because silence when you know something they don't is a weapon sharper than any outburst. I gave a polite nod, stood smooth my blazer, and walked out of HR like a coroner leaving a crime scene. Mason called after me. No hard feelings, right? I was halfway down the hall. I didn't answer. Didn't turn. Because the failsafe was still humming. Back at my floor, the first thing I noticed, my name was gone from the internal directory. Not updated, gone. Elise Harper vanished in sanitized sans serif. My badge still worked for now. A final courtesy, like a guillotine offering one last breath. My workstation screen blinked, once then opened to nothing. Outlook dead. Slack frozen. Wallpaper reset to that corporate blue void. My personal folders, not a trace. Not even in the recycle bin. HR moved faster than malware on public Wi-Fi. But I was faster. I slid open my file drawer, peeled back the tape under the lowest shelf, and grabbed the backup drive. Label for when they get cute. Inside, timestamp project logs, test results, every ignored action item I'd sent Mason. Encrypted, signed, untouched. My failsafe had teeth. Passing through the bullpen, I expected anyone to look up. No one did. Eyes stayed glued to monitors, hands motionless over keyboards. Not because they didn't care, but because fear is louder than loyalty. I started clearing my desk. Notepad, charger, the coffee mug from our first pilot test, and a framed photo of my nephew squinting at the beach like he could already sense betrayal. Then my keyboard froze. Pop-up access denied. Account disabled. No warning, no countdown. Just digital exile. I picked up my phone thankfully, mine not theirs, and opened my encrypted thread with my attorney. No pleasantries, just 3 words. Failsafe still running. She replied with a single thumbs up, and a PDF I didn't bother to open. Yet, I didn't need to open the file. We'd prepared for this exact moment 6 months ago, right after I told my attorney I wouldn't trust Mason with a vending machine login, let alone my legacy. She helped me draft airtight legal scaffolding for Protocol Echo. Failsafe B wasn't company property. It didn't exist in their documentation, didn't touch their repositories, wasn't built on their dime. Every line of the logic layer had been written after hours in my own isolated dev environment, routed directly to an investor-only dashboard I was contractually allowed to manage. And that dashboard didn't just monitor system health. It proved authorship. Every commit, every log, every optimization marked with my digital signature like a watermark in code. Immutable, undeniable. Karen had access. So did legal. So did compliance. Mason. He didn't even know it existed. He thought failsafe meant some dusty binder with printed passwords and a fire drill checklist. That's the thing. With men like Mason, they mistake quiet for weak. They assume that because you don't bark, you won't bite. But I wasn't silent out of fear. I was silent because I planned. Now the disbelief inside me congealed into something colder. Not rage, not yet, just precision. I zipped my bag left behind the desk tchotchkes, the HR pamphlets, the limp fake plant. On the way out, I passed the IT desk. Calvin was hunched over a headset, walking an intern through Excel carnage. He looked up, just once, gave me the smallest nod. Everyone has a copy. 6 months ago, Mason stood at the whiteboard connecting buzzwords like synergy lanes and AI leverage, while I quietly built the knife that would slit his narrative wide open. I didn't know then how he'd try to screw me, but I'd seen enough signs. The mysterious deletion of my test folder. The time he forgot to credit me at the Q2 review, chalking up Volt's performance to some mythical group effort. The day he gave my investor lunch seat to his new executive assistant Bella, whose greatest asset was owning Louboutins in 3 colors and a LinkedIn bio written like a brunch menu. That same week, I visited DevSec, A dim, windowless office lit by fluorescent suspicion. Sasha didn't look up. Just said, "You want spyware, Elise." "Not quite," I smiled. "If you're still reading, you're already in too deep, might as well hit subscribe, so you don't miss what happens when the trap finally snaps." "I want a heartbeat monitor," I told Sasha. "One that keeps pulsing even if the patient flatlines." She tilted her head, more curious than skeptical. I explained. A passive, immutable audit layer that would continuously scrape Volt's back-end performance data, encrypt it, and upload hourly to an investor-only dashboard. Not the public-facing reports. Not the board's shiny deck. A hidden tunnel embedded in the architecture, read-only. No write access, no rollback permissions, just clean, permanent truth. I called it Protocol Echo. Sasha blinked. "Echo, not alphas for people expecting a second chance?" I said. "I'm building the only one I'll get." We documented it all offline. The code lived in a private GitLab repo, protected by dual auth and alias tags only 2 people understood. I wrote the scripts on my own time, on my own hardware, under a small clause, buried deep in my employment contract, 1 paragraph no exec ever noticed. But my lawyer, she'd circled it in red ink 3 times, and here's the best part. I didn't hide it from legal. I filed the dashboard under experimental validation, attached it to the Merdata pipeline, and personally assigned Karen Bouchard's access credentials. She'd opted in to monitor the Volt rollout 6 months before launch. Karen never said much. She didn't have to. Her login pings came nightly, always between 2 and 3 a.m. I imagined her in a silent Manhattan penthouse, barefoot in gray cashmere, scrolling through efficiency curves like others' binge TV dramas. At the time, I called it insurance. A digital paper trail, a hedge against Mason's incompetence. But now, it was dynamite. While Mason sat crafting his pitch deck full of pastel pie charts and buzzwords like hyper-agile vertical leverage, the real system was pulsing live on Karen's feed. Peak metrics: delivery lag shaved to near zero, fulfillment speeds up 31%, labor balance perfected. Each data pulse was a receipt, a witness. A digital billboard blinking Elise built this in high res. And the best part? There was no off switch. Not even I could shut it down. Protocol Echo was never about revenge. It was always about the truth. I just hadn't expected truth to be so damn flammable. That day in DevSec, after laying out protocol, Echo Sasha walked me to the door. "You really think they'll try to cut you out?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. "I think they already have. I'm just making sure they choke on it." Now in the present, I walked out of that HR room, keycard disabled inbox, wiped career obituary delivered, but head held high. Mason thought it was over, that I was out of frame off the board. He didn't know I still had the match. And his polyester blend suit was already drenched in metaphorical gasoline. I didn't need to visit the server room, but some people light candles at graves. Others leave flowers. I needed to stand in the hum. 2 floors down past the fishbowl of interns staging productivity for their portfolios and the motivational mural no one could quote, sober. Security buzzed me in without a glance, still thinking I worked there. The hum hit me like static-laced comfort. Racks of servers blinked like a choir humming back, "You built this." Cool, clean, honest. I walked to the diagnostics terminal, logged in on instinct, though there was no need to touch a thing. Protocol Echo was breathing, pulsing alive. I just wanted to see it. One last time. There it was. 32.1% cost reduction on live logistics routes. 99.6% uptime over 6 months. Employee scheduling efficiency up 28%. Fulfillment latency down 41%. Predictive routing accuracy 94.3%. And the headline metric, $18.4 million in projected annual savings, with 9 months left in the fiscal year. No filters, no spin, no Mason, just data. Clean, pure. Truth distilled into numbers that no one could twist. The dashboard refreshed. Another package delivered 11 minutes ahead of target. Another 7% fuel burn drop from predictive shift timing. Another team of warehouse staff dynamically reassigned 0 delays, 0 errors, Zero need for human correction. Every line of code whispered a goodbye, not to mourn, but to mark what we'd built. I didn't smile. Smiling felt too cheap for a legacy. I just breathed and let the silence carry me out. Once, I clicked the snapshot button only once. Not to archive anything, it was already mirrored hourly across 3 offsite nodes. I did it for me. A final heartbeat, a last digital breath. Proof that I wasn't paranoid, or bitter, or too technical to lead as Mason once smirked. I was right, and the numbers proved it. That dashboard. It was Karen Bouchard's private feed. She was probably already on her second espresso somewhere above Tribeca, arching one manicured brow and wondering why Friday's board packet showed a 9% savings when her real-time panel said 32. Wondering why Elise Harper's name had been scrubbed from Volt's project logs. And wondering coolly precisely who thought it wise to lie to a woman whose name graced more Fortune 500 boardrooms than half the NASDAQ. I logged out, didn't touch the servers, didn't unplug a thing, didn't even leave a note, because this wasn't goodbye. This was confirmation, the spark before ignition. The air smelled different as I re-entered the main hallway cleaner. Or maybe I did. Like steel. Mason mistook silence for surrender. Forgot that silence is what comes right before the detonation. Somewhere on the 42nd floor of a glass and eucalyptus office tower, Karen narrowed her eyes at the dashboard glowing across her curved screen. The numbers weren't just impressive, they were unreal. Volt wasn't succeeding. It was rewriting benchmarks. She leaned back, espresso steaming, studying the performance graph climbing like a rocket with no ceiling. Tap, tap. One press on the savings bar, another on the audit log. Every commit, every update, every ounce of lift signed with the same dev ID, Harper, Volt, 01. Not Mason, not some intern he fed into the meeting last minute. Elise Harper. Over and over, logged, sealed, unshakable. Just this morning, Mason had waltzed into the boardroom, dripping smug, and declared the Volt rollout overbuilt, blaming its bloated back end for the pivot toward newer platforms. His solution, sunset, Volt. Fire Elise. Karen didn't flinch. She picked up her phone, pressed her liaison's number. 3 seconds later, the boardroom froze. Miss Bouchard is on the line, someone whispered. Mason looked up, grin intact. Put her through, he said. Karen's voice sliced through the speaker like a scalpel. Calm, precise, cold. Gentlemen, let's clarify something. Tell me, Karen said evenly, why is the only person delivering results being terminated? Silence. Dead heavy reputations on the line silence. Karen let it sit for 3 beats, then continued, clipped and surgical. Because what I see is a 32% cost reduction across 6 active sectors, uptime performance tracking, near perfect in every line of Volt's system logic, authored by someone named Elise Harper. She paused. So either your metrics are fiction, or someone in that room just made a very expensive mistake. Anyone care to clarify? The chairman cleared his throat, muttered something about evolving priorities. Mason opened his mouth, gearing up to spin, but Karen cut the line. Free to pivot. Good luck finding another investor. Click. The boardroom fractured. Panic. Buzzwords collapsed. Legal counsel called in mid-bite. HR frozen. Some junior board member leaned toward another and whispered, "Who the hell is Elise Harper?" Meanwhile, 3 levels down in the parking garage, I walked steadily toward my car, bag slung over one shoulder. Footsteps echoing between cement pillars and years of silent endurance. My phone vibrated. Once, twice, then 5 times in a row. Mason. HR. Block numbers labeled urgent. I didn't answer. Not yet. Somewhere above, while the fans hissed and the fluorescents flickered, a man in a $1,000 suit was being escorted out. Shoulders hunched, eyes, low career, bleeding out in his hands. And me? I clicked my key fob. The car chirped. I had no idea I just ended a man's career with nothing but precision and patience. Just knew I was walking away from a building I should have burned down long ago. And behind me, Everything was burning. By the time I slid into the driver's seat, my phone looked like a panic beacon. Missed calls. HR, please respond. ASAP. Mason. This is a misunderstanding. Unknown. Let's talk. And at the bottom, Karen Bouchard would like to speak. Immediate availability. I watched the desperation stack up like wreckage from a 6-month-long slow-motion crash. It almost made me laugh, like watching raccoons try to open a locked vault with salad tongs. I flicked my thumb. Phone off. They had all the access in the world until they didn't. The engine rumbled alive beneath me. I didn't grip the wheel with vengeance. Just purpose. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just drove. Left hand steady at 10 o'clock. Right hand draped over the console like I had nowhere urgent to be. Because now, finally, I didn't. I pulled out of the underground garage like it was any other Tuesday morning. No dramatics, no music, just the hum of quiet satisfaction. Inside the building I just left, though, the walls were already crumbling. Mason made it 6 steps past the executive elevators before 2 security guards boxed him in mirrored sunglasses, matching polyester polite but firm. His badge blinked red. The VP of Ops, Janice, who hadn't spoken directly to him in months, met his confused smirk with ice. Karen wants your office cleared by 3. By the time Mason realized she wasn't joking, Karen had already rerouted Volt's reporting structure. She cut the C-suite out like infected code. A transition team was named. My system access reactivated. And a request Karen wanted a face-to-face meeting with me. Off-site, quiet. Her terms. No email, no invite. Just a black car and a message. Don't start the engine until she's ready. On the highway, I passed every old wound. The exit to the office. The Shell station, where I once cried into a cold coffee after a deployment crash. The cafe where I used to write test scripts before sunrise, while execs snoozed through their stock options. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger demands a return. I didn't want anything from them. Not an apology, not a headline, not a shiny new title. I had something better, receipts, results, and someone who actually understood both. No more faking smallness to survive. While Mason boxed up his branded mousepad and bonsai, I rolled my window down and let the wind peel the past off me strip by strip. The building had no name, just mirrored black glass and a doorman who nodded like he'd seen this before. They led me through marble silence like I was returning from battle, not exile. No badge, no paperwork, just my name, Elise Harper, and the weight it finally carried. Inside, clean space, oak table, 2 chairs, no handlers, no noise, just her, Karen, waiting. Just Karen Bouchard in a dove gray suit with the sleeves casually pushed up, sipping tea like she hadn't just gutted a Fortune 200 from 20 floors away. She didn't stand when I entered. She didn't smile. She just looked up and said, "Elise." I nodded. "Have a seat?" I did. No small talk, no flattery, no tell me your journey icebreakers. Just a manila folder, thick and clean, placed in front of me. No logos, no seals, just the title, Volt, Rebuild Proposal. She slid it across the table with 2 fingers. "You get full control," she said. "Rebranded. Independently funded. New firm, clean slate. You name it, we build it. No Mason, no board, no ego-laced meetings with buzzwords and bonuses." I didn't say anything right away. Not because I was overwhelmed, because I didn't want to ruin a perfect moment with the wrong syllables. Karen tilted her head. "Something wrong. Just one condition," I said. "I pick the team, and we build it right. No optics over function. No brittle systems dressed up as disruption. It works, or we don't launch." Karen's lips barely moved, but the approval in her face was unmistakable. "Good," she said. "I hoped you'd say that." She stood, gave a single nod, then left me alone with a laptop. 1 login, no instructions, just trust. I opened it, navigated to the feed, clicked Reactivate Stream. This time, the data didn't disappear into someone else's dashboard. It lit up a new domain, Volt DevCore Solutions, Owned by Harper Systems, LLC. The dashboard blinked to life. Freight efficiency, plus 33.2%. Predictive route mapping. Stable system, uptime, 100% latency, 0.42s, admin, Elise, Harper. I leaned back. Not smug. Not smug at all. Just still. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't redemption. It was validation. The data hadn't just exposed the lie, it had built the next beginning line by verified line proof, by unshakable proof. And all it took was knowing where power actually lives. Not in the corner office, not in the applause, not in men who sell noise, but in the code, the logs, the receipts. I closed the laptop and whispered it into the stillness like a vow. Now it begins. If you've followed me this far through the silence, the sabotage, the storm, then don't just scroll past. Hit subscribe. Drop a comment. Tell me what you would have done in my shoes. Tell me if you've been in a boardroom where your name vanished in a meeting where your voice was buried in a job where the applause skipped your row. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm looking for solidarity. Because this wasn't just my story, it's the blueprint for anyone who's ever been underestimated, overlooked, or outright erased. Your voice matters even when they pretend not to hear it. Especially then. Here's what I learned. The system doesn't reward silence, but silence can still carry power when wielded with purpose. Document everything. Protect your work. Build the receipts before you need them. And most of all, don't let them trick you into shrinking. I stayed quiet, not because I lacked confidence, but because I was collecting proof. Patience is a form of strategy. Precision is a form of protest. And walking away with your name, your truth, and your future intact, that's the loudest win of all. So speak your truth, build your fire, and when you're ready, let the data do the talking.